he was taking drugs that made him go to the loo a lot. And so I had to take him to the very grotty, as you know, King's Head Loo, and waited outside, and I heard the most wonderful sound, which was Rattigan singing away. There he was, dying of cancer, so happy that we revived his play, and so happy to be taken seriously again. And it really meant a lot to him.
What's extraordinary about the King's Head, which I think very few people know, is that it's actually had more transfers into the West End, more shows. It's originated into the West End than any other theatre. And that's quite a big thing to say, and I will exclude the National Theatre from that. But I am pitting it up against Hampstead Theatre and Donmar and the Almeida. Over its years, it has kept a constant supply of either great revivals or exciting new stuff.
It's quite different from big London theatres, which are very valuable and important. But this is different, this is dangerous. It tries out brand new shows which haven't gone anywhere, you know. A lot of them, of course, do, because Dan's Eye is sort of pretty unerring, but a lot of them don't. They might be plays that can only really be performed here or aren't seen again in the West End.
Keeping up with the reading is a real task. Every now and again I'll get something that's so spectacular that I go out and seek funding for it. Don't necessarily succeed, but sometimes I do. I went to see One Touch of Venus on a rehearsed reading at the Linbury in Covent Garden, and it was so terrific that I said, my God, I must do this.
You'll enjoy a friendly tussle with a cactus in your muscle when you're riding through New Jersey on a rail. Yeehaw!
One's mind is a catalogue of things to do. I've got about 50 productions in my mind that I could do at any time, and that's one of them. A terrific show. Now, what have we here? It is called To the Spin, or Where's the Pillow?
The variety is quite extraordinary. You can, one day be seeing Daphne du Maurier's September Tide, really rather a terrific performance, and the next day, some marvellous Irish play. I mean, that's an area where I think Dan has really served us well. I mean, the Irish Renaissance that has really continued for the last 20, 30 years, plays by Brian Friel, plays by Hugh Leonard, and from the north of Ireland, Stuart Parker. And now it was Dan who made Stuart Parker's name. Stuart Parker may not be well remembered now, but I can assure you that Spoke Song was one of the great Irish plays, and one of the early plays that had something to say about Ulster and Ulster's problems, and said it brilliantly. Now, Dan discovered Stuart Parker.
The Irish write wonderful plays, marvellous plays. Stuart Parker's a splendid writer, as is Tom Gallagher, who writes Irish plays, and Hugh Leonard, and Shaw, and Oscar Wilde, and maybe Shakespeare, we don't know.
Here is Dan, an inveterate, consummate heterosexual, and no other man has made a greater contribution in modern times, I think, to gay theatre. He has gone on and on, producing a repertoire of old and new gay plays. It's interesting, that.
It always has had that kind of ambience. Way back for years now, there's a channel there. It represents hope and the opportunity to break through the theatrical jungle, which sometimes is almost impassable.
He makes this space available to the actors on their way up, and that's invaluable.
How many actors would you say that you've employed over the years?
Well, each production has an average of, let us say, 6. So 6 times 340 is about 2,159.
Right.
I'd say, approximately. Could be more than that.
How many people?
Some twice. A few of them twice.
Right. Well, yeah, many twice. Many more than twice.
Yeah, lots. Yeah.
And how many would you say that you helped to discover as a direct result?
Well, I think certainly Hugh Grant's one helped him along the way. Tom Conti says his career moved from here to job to job to job to job, and the jobs have never run out.
Right.
Victoria Wood started her performing career here.
Yeah.
We did a show called Hello and Goodbye, an Athol Fugard play, with Janet Sussman and a relatively unknown actor from the RSC called Ben Kingsley. It turns out that Ben went on to be a whacking great star.
Yeah.
First time I came to work here was in the great glorious days of lunchtime theatre, when people used to pack it out and it mattered, and it was a play called Going Home, I think. It might have been called Coming Home, but I think it was called Going Home by William Trevor, and it was a very famous performance by Dorian Mantle, which indeed had people queuing out on the streets at lunchtime, Harold Pinter fighting to get in.
My character sitting on the stage with tears pouring out down her cheeks and saying, oh God, how can you be so cruel? She's heartbroken. And the set fell on me.
You know, in terms of where in your life, you know, are the join up the dots moments, it was terribly important.
Day 2 of rehearsals for Women Laughing.
What were they laughing about?
I told you, I don't know.
Dan's always been wonderfully unprotective of the process. I mean, he's absolutely there for it, but he never seemed, I never remember him being anything other than welcoming and enthusiastic about my sitting in a corner, butting in when I wanted to. And of course, you know, all authors think that they're a helpful influence. You know, we think that because we wrote it and because a form of ideal production was happening in one's head as one was writing, we rather think that we're the ones who know what kind of noise the show should be making. And one of the strengths of a good director like Dan is that he will listen to you, but is capable of making you re-examine your own predisposition.
He still seems to me almost like the apologetic young man I first met. Thrilled that you like something, and pleased and keen to know your opinion.
The best directors I've ever worked with are the ones that say, "Can I just have a quick word?" You know? And they take you off into a corner somewhere, and you know exactly what they're talking about.
Dan is a director's producer. In other words, he really conceives of his program, conceives of the purpose of the play, how it will fit into this theatre. He helps directors who perhaps have never understood how you can possibly get an epic drama fit onto this sort of 5x10 stage.
Only if she could see, she'd see how things are. That she does not forgive. Don't tell me what to do. A lie is a lie. Either you tell her or I tell her.
Well, the great thing about working at the King's Head, first of all, it seems as if it's an unusual stage just because of the shape of it. It's not anything like a standard off-West End or off-Broadway stage, but what it does is it brings the actors literally into the audience. So you never get to see a production the same way you get to see it at the King's Head.
I think that the shows have worked because one doesn't really have the, as it were, distance to separate the set from the sound of the language, the information in the language, the poetry in the language, your neighbor watching it. Everything is somehow the same organism in a theatre of this nature.
And I think it's probably in a kind of accidental space whereby the story wins.
And then I'll put the gun in my mouth and I'll pull the trigger.
Nobody's preeminent except the story. And ultimately that's what theatre's about, is storytelling, and there's a kind of wonderful silence that descends when that's working successfully.
It's about ghosts in the walls. There's a kind of atmosphere which you can't buy, you can't design. You either get it for free or you don't, and this place has it.
Tell me, is love still a popular suggestion, or merely an obsolete art? Forgive me for asking this simple question. I'm unfamiliar with his heart. I am a stranger here myself.
The closeness of the audience, of course, is thrilling.
heart-stopping, actually, both in laughter and quiet. It's extraordinary.
The usage of the stage and the back entrance was so marvellous. We went down from the stage out to the audience. I could feel the wonderful tension of everything.
We did do Brutus on a shoestring in the usual King's Head manner. We had a wonderful cast, Mark Eden, Ken Perry, and just a stunning cast. Couldn't have been better. And we did everything by sleight of hand, by magic. For example, when the magic forest comes, it was just a green light at the back of the theatre, and everyone comes out and kind of does. And the most extraordinary thing is you all saw the magic wood.
I think if they had to get a European Union ruling on. Yeah, I mean, I think veal calves are treated better than the audience at the King's Head in terms of, packing them in, don't you think?
Yes. It's like bare knuckle fighting. You sort of go in there every day and you think, God, am I going to survive this? And people are like that close to you. If they don't like you, you're going to know immediately.
And there's nothing more exposing or more naked than standing up on the King's Head stage in front of people who are within arm's reach.
I was quite frightened. Because they're like there they are. That's you. That's the stage, and you're looking then, and somebody's going like this.
So often, something almost like magic happens because there's this tiny little triangle at the end of this smallish room in the midst of this pub, which you forget about almost altogether. It's amazing how little sound comes through. And there, on that triangle, you're regularly transported to the 1920s, 30s, 60s, 70s, other places, other worlds, with an ease and an intimacy and fluency that you don't find on conventional big stages. And that's one of the most important points about the King's Head, how well it changes environments and completely possesses you with another world.
And then of course you walk out from that really sort of almost womb-like auditorium where you've created your own world in the play. At the moment ours is Death and the Maiden. And then you go out into a totally different world, into the bar where there may be music playing, or like last night when I walked out after the play, there were 2 or 3 couples having a bop on the floor there, having a dance to the band that was playing. And then you move through that into Upper Street, which itself is almost like theatre. I mean, it's like carnival night every night out there.
There's something wonderful like coming into the King's Head with people drinking here, and they're going, "Oh, you're doing a show tonight, Joe?" And you go, "Yeah, you come and see it?" And they go, "No." Walk on through. It was fantastic. I loved it. I think this is an extremely important theatre.
But when we were doing Rough Crossing, it was quite a big cast, and as you realise, it's quite a small space, the King's Head. And we were supposed to be on a boat, all of us. And we had a lovely little stage manager, Natasha, who used to go up on the roof and would have a thing coming through the skylight, a chandelier, so it looked like we were actually moving on the sea. So she'd be swinging the chandelier backwards and forwards, and we'd be sort of keeping a sort of slow sort of motion going. And I remember that one particular evening it was raining appallingly, I mean really badly, and she was up there in a sou'wester and a mac, holding a chandelier, with the rain falling through the skylight onto us below. So we're standing there absolutely drenched on this boat in beautiful costumes. And it went on for what seemed like hours, and you wanted someone to go, "Stop!"
We had a leak which kept dripping into the dressing room. So Dan had another friend, not the man who made wedding dresses, but someone else who came in to put pitch, black stuff, whatever it's called. Yeah, I think it's called pitch, is that, onto the roof to stop. And in fact, it did stop the rain coming in, but what happened is the black pitch then dropped in on us. So it was very interesting. We've had some really good experiences here.
And I can remember seeing members of the audience folding their programmes into little paper hats, like paper boats, and putting them on their heads. And you could hear of raindrops falling on their paper hats.